Today it's time for another auction mock draft. The second one I've done. Again, I managed to wrangle my way out of the draft, so I will just be commentating, breaking it down, talking about picks, talking about prices. Let's get these guys going. Balls deep.
I'm the type to get shit done. You the type to observe. March Madness on my speakers, but today's November 23rd. Got something loud in the blunt, yeah. I don't say what I want, yeah. Probably somewhere sunny getting tan. Foreign women in the sun, yeah. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. Got my brothers with me. Got my brothers with me, and my mama's healthy. That's all that I need.
Welcome to the Balls Deep podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I am Adam King at AdamKing91 on Twitter, at FBI Basketball on Twitter is where you will find us, or the website fbibasketball.com. We're on YouTube right now, Twitter right now, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify later. Like, subscribe, rate, follow, all of that stuff. We are doing another auction mock draft today. This was a Discord exclusive. So we've got 11 people, 11 members of our Discord community, which you can join. Head, as I said, to the website. The link, I think, is in my bio. Jump in there. Redraft leagues are kicking off. We've got some new stuff coming up as well in the next couple of days, which we'll be announcing. But yeah, head over there, all the information. And we do have Raphael Johnson in the draft as well as a bit of a guest special drafter. Let me bring up the screen. Now, I can't remember. I think we had it like this last time. I don't know. I might end up taking my head off it because no one needs to see my head. The boys, the people, whoever's in the draft have been waiting, so I will just let them know that we are going to start now. So yes, auction settings, standard, $200, 12-team, 9-cat. I'll just give them 20 seconds to start, just so that we're good. I have confirmed everyone is in the draft room, so hopefully they are still in the draft room. We are good to go. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of me talking for this one. I have my ridiculously oversized drink bottle, which should be able to keep me going. All right. Okay, Wemby nominated first. All right, so he went for $92, I want to say, in the first auction that we did to, I think it was Eric Ong. So let's see what he goes for here. I have got some basic prices up. This is just through Basketball Monster, and Wemby is 60. He will go for more than 60, I can almost guarantee. He's already up to 56, 70. Whoa, okay, a big jump there from Phil G up to 76, which actually I think he's about a $75 player, just if we're comparing to everyone. So we got him for 76. Don't know if he needed to go that high. It went from 57 to 76. So, yeah, could have potentially just gone 60 and see what happened. But 76, a lot better than 92. And probably about right. I think that's okay. I think Anthony Davis and Luka went for that 65 range. So we'll see what Jokic goes for here. He's at drop questions in too. If you're watching, feel free to drop questions. As I said, I'm not drafting, so I can get to questions. That is totally fine. Jokic is up to 56. If Wemby's 76, I would be assuming Jokic might be $10 cheaper, so maybe 65. He's at 58 now, 59. Okay, I thought Raf was going to get him there for 58, which would have been a bargain. Bumped up to 67. That feels about right. He went for like 80 in that last one, which was too high. 60, mid-60s feels about right, and he goes for 65. So Wemby sort of has that excitement factor, which you bump on a few dollars. So more in line with what I was thinking here. Luka goes next. All right. Well, I guess we're just nominating in rank order, and let me put in here. Remember, you can nominate anyone doesn't have to be in rank order. Okay, Luka is up to 45. As I said, I think he went for 65-ish in the last one that we did. Given Jokic only went for 67, I would assume Luka, if we're sort of basing that simply off those top two guys, I think Luka will go for about 60. He's up to 58. Oh, what's going on with my straw? All right, so Matt Carmody, friend of the show, Matt Carmody. He's usually in the chat, not in the chat today because he's drafting. He got Luka for 58. That feels pretty good, All right, Kawhi Leonard. News obviously coming out that he has had a procedure, $2, a procedure in the off season, and yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't drafting him anyway. He's probably dropped from being a third rounder to a fourth rounder, probably in the 40s. He'll end up going maybe closer to 50. And and there is that element of risk. So while he's a top 50, I think if we look at someone like an Emmanuel Quickly in the last draft, who's in that range, he went for about 22, 23, I think. So you would think, okay, Kawhi will go for something similar. There is a bit of a risk, though, as well with the injuries, because he could be top 50. I mean, he could still be obviously a first-round player per game, but just that totals downside. He's sitting there for 18. I wouldn't be in this bidding war anyway, but $18. Yeah, look, that's probably about right. I think 15 would be, I guess, if I was bidding, would be where I would be at. But 18 is not too bad for a guy that, look, maybe he still plays 60 games and you get a top 10 guy for 60 games of the season. And if that's the case, then $18 is great. Jason Tatum on the board now. He's, as we know, he's in that sort of third tier. Totals versus per game, he's really good in terms of totals. Let me have a look here at let's see, have we got any? Nope. Okay, sorry, just checking some stuff there. Tatum's still going, 43, 42, 43. Actually, I can probably bring up, if we wanted to do a direct comparison here, I'll bring up the results from the, I think I saved, where did I save it? All right, sorry, give me a sec. Oh, you don't need to see that. Let me just, I'm sure that I saved the auction results somewhere. Did I? Maybe I didn't. I did have them saved as a like a spreadsheet, but anyway, let me look it up in the Fantrax website. So Tatum went for 49, so 50, which is a good price, I think. Where's my auction? Here we go. Auction draft results. No, I don't want that. I want the auction results, and I want. I don't think I can sort on here, but I can probably. It doesn't search the whole list. If I can. All right. Sorry, this was probably something I should have done before. So Embiid was nominated next. He's up to 31. Again, a guy that I'm not interested in at all. Here we go. Results. Bring that over here. Right. So I can actually sort by price. Let's go largest to smallest. And yes, I would like to expand the selection. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, so I've got some direct comparisons up now. So Joel Embiid went for $38. He went for 41 in the last draft, so slightly down. Jason Tatum went for 41 in the last draft. That was really good value, and I don't know whether that, as I said, Wemby too high, Jokic too high, which meant it sort of dragged some of that pricing up, which some of these mid, or not mid, but some of these next tier down guys like Tatum, Halliburton went for the low 40s, Giannis went for 49. And we saw Tatum go here for 40, 49, which I still think is okay value. 41 was really good value. Embiid for 38. As I said, someone that I'm not really interested in. Trae Young has now been nominated, and he is up to 39. He went for 37, so he's looking like he's going to go slightly above what he went in that last draft, and he does. He goes for 39, so I think that's okay as well. Nothing outlandish yet. Let me jump back in here, which is good. Let's get this moving, guys. Nominate someone. This does seem to be the pattern from what I've seen. This is the 4th auction draft I think I've done. And we're typically seeing top 20, top 25 names go off the board early. So I guess people trying to get money off the board. Obviously Kawhi potentially doesn't fit that theory, but someone that we're interested will be see Harden might go. He is obviously inside the top 25, but let's see if his value bumps up from when we did the last draft, and we'll see if someone like a Dante DiVincenzo's value goes up. Julius Randle with Mitchell Robinson out. Had word today that Devin Vassell is out for at least the first couple of weeks of the season. So let's see if that impacts his price as well. Şengün goes for 32, and he went for, where are you, Şengün? He went for 28 in the last draft that we did. So 32, so slightly above. Trae Young was slightly above. Tatum was slightly above. So, with those top 2 guys a little bit cheaper, it's just bumping up that value slightly. Another top echelon player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, nominated now, sitting at 46. I would assume he will go similar to Luka, and Luka went for. As I scroll back up, I should remember this, shouldn't I? Luka Doncic went for 50. 58. Shea goes for 49 to Raf. Okay, so good value there. So Raf has 2 players. We'll start talking about money soon. We're still very early in the draft. There's obviously still a lot of people that haven't bid or haven't had a successful bid. But Raf has 2 players now, as does Phil. Phil G got Wemby and Jason Tatum with his first 2. Raf, Shea, and Şengün. Giannis on the board now. As I said, he went for 49. If Shea went for 49, Luka went for 58, I would assume Giannis. I mean, that would put him in the mid 40s probably if we are doing it that way. But I think that's pretty cheap for Shea. I think getting him at 50, projections have him as again 40, 46. But I'm adding I don't know, probably 15 to 20% to these numbers. At least 10. So Shea, I would have him as a mid 50s to close to 60. So Giannis is at 46. Doesn't look like anyone's going. Okay, so he goes for 46, which okay, interesting. Still, we're still seeing these upper echelon guys go. Vooch, okay, he's a random one. Vooch, he would not have gone for a lot in that last one. Let me have a look. Oh, what was it there? Vooch went for $8, and I feel like he went in the middle. What did he go? Yeah, 62, so mid-ish. Yes, Phil G. Crickets. No one wants Vooch this year. He's up to 6. He's an interesting one to get a good read on this year with the way the Bulls are heading. He's a Basketball Monster has him as a $14 player. He's sitting at 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so he is someone I think you can probably, because Jalen Duran, Mark Williams, those sorts of guys went for between sort of 12. I think Gobert went for 11, which is pretty cheap. But they're going for around 15, and they're all in that 50 range. Vooch is probably a round down from them or around behind them, so in the 60s, and he goes for 11. So that would tell me that those guys like Duran, Jarrett Allen, they might still sit here at about 15. Here is James Harden. Let's see what if there's a change. So scroll back up. James Harden went for 35 to Josh Lloyd in the last draft. That was before the news came out regarding Kawhi Leonard. So he's sitting at 26, 27. He's basically a borderline first rounder now if we're looking at ranks. He has bumped up into that discussion almost with Trae Young. I don't think he's going to score as much as Trae, although, look, honestly, without Kawhi there, maybe he has to, or at least try. They did just sign Terrence Mann to a new 3-year deal, so he probably gets a bit of a bump as well, with Kawhi potentially missing time. So $34, basically what he went for in that last draft, 35. So no real change. 36. Okay, so there's a couple bidding on him here. If I look for jumping from multiple screens again here. Raf going hard again. So he actually went hard early in that last draft that we did. If I bring it up, I think if I sort by team, where's his team? So Raf in that last draft actually went with Jokic, Maxey, Tatum, and Brunson all inside the top 30, or for the first 30 picks. So he spent basically all of his money, and he has Shea, Harden, and Şengün. So he spent 120. He hasn't gone after that top player like he did with Jokic. He's Shea, I guess, is close. I think getting him for 49 is going to end up looking really nice at the end. Sabonis sitting at 39. He's in that, the tier. See, I'd have him below Trae. I guess arguably you could have him in the same range. He went for 27 to Noah, and I remember that because Noah was drafting on the show. That was very good value. He was never going to go for 27. He's sitting at 41 here, which is, he's, as I said, I think he's in that Harden, Trae Young range, back end of, probably not, probably early second round. So maybe he is a tier below them, but he goes for 43. If we, got to remember all these numbers. Where are we? So Tatum was 48. Who am I looking for here? Trae Young. So Trae Young was 39, and Yeah, Sabonis 43. So that's maybe too much, I think, for me, for Sabonis. But if you are punting, if you're coming in with a specific build, he can get a bump pretty quickly if you punt a couple of categories. So Anthony Davis, who I have in that tier with Shea and Luka, which would put him as I think probably a $60 player. But I do know some people are a little worried about injuries, that sort of thing. I'm not too bothered by it. So his bidding has slowed. He's at 43. I mean, if someone can get him here in the 40s, I think that's really good value for Anthony Davis. He's sitting at 44. 45. They're leaving it till the last second to bid. And there's a few people bidding here. It's not just two going back and forward. Wow, 45 for Anthony Davis. That's fantastic value, in my opinion. As I said, I've got him in that second tier as a top 5 guy this year. So, yeah, to get him at 45, Shea at 49, and Luka at whatever he was, 58, $13 cheaper is very nice indeed. So Steph Curry. So we're still going very top heavy here. People trying to get money off the board, which it makes sense. I might even run an auction mock. I know when Josh broke down the last mock that we did, he spoke about it would be interesting to run an auction draft where basically your top guys, top 15, top 20 players are almost ineligible to be nominated for the first 3 rounds or something like that, just to see what happens with the prices. If we had a lot of these mid guys or guys that are obviously going to be drafted by like your Jalen Williams, Jamal Murray, Darius Garland, Josh Giddey, Isaiah Hartenstein, these names, if they were to go off the board first, would their price bump up because everyone's got all this money and they're just willing to spend? And then you get value on those top guys like your Wemby and your Jokic, or would people just conserve money? So would they actively not bid? And so you'd actually find a lot of value early because people are trying to save their money. It would be very interesting. So I might even look to run an auction where I just provide a list of players and say you can't nominate these guys until everyone has bid 3 times or something like that. So while I was talking, Steph Curry went off the board for $35. Jalen Brunson went off the board for $35. So it's interesting. People are obviously viewing those 2 guys fairly similar. Steph Curry went for 37 in the last draft that we did, and Brunson went for 27. So maybe a bit of value on Steph and maybe a little bit too much for Brunson there. Projections have Brunson as, where are you, Jalen Brunson? Have him as a 25. So if I add my 15, 20, he's probably like a $28 to $30 player. Steph Curry, 33. So, yeah, 38. So, look, I think for Steph, that's okay. I think for Brunson, it's potentially a little bit high. I'm not sure where the upside is for Brunson when we compare to last season. So, Pajemski goes for $7. It'll be interesting to see where he... Oh, no, I don't want that. I want this one. Pods. Went for 7 in the last one as well. So very similar. Tyrese on the board, and he is not going for value this time around. As I said, he went for 42 in the last one, and he's gone for 50 here, which 50 feels about right. But interesting that he's gone for more than Anthony Davis, more than Shea, because I think if you talk to most people, Shea is in that consensus top 4, where Tyrese is more in the 5 to 9 range. So I don't think it's an overpay by any means, but just when compared to what's been happening here. LaMelo Ball, one of my guys this year, See, now I have him in the Tyrese Halliburton discussion in terms of per game, but certainly a significant injury risk and injury concern given what we've seen the last couple of years. He went for 39 in the last draft. He's sitting at 37 here. And he goes for 37. Yeah, I'm all right with that. Yeah, I mean, per game, Basketball Monster has him at 36. So we add our 10, so it's 40, low 40s. So I think pretty good value there on LaMelo, but he of course does get that little caveat because of the injury risk. Evan Mobley, I think someone people are relatively quietly but relatively high on this season. That breakout might be coming. Jared Allen is who he is at this point and won't really bring anything new to the table, where I think Mobley can. He's still very young. The Cavs are going to be pushing for top 4 seed. 32 for Mobley, 33 for Mobley. And I think, I think Mobley could be a top 20 player this season if everything went well. Obviously, not having Jared Allen there would help him because his block numbers would go up a little bit. But I still think that there's some improvement to come this year. So I like Mobley. So he's at 37, which is again interesting because LaMelo just went for 37. I have LaMelo at least a round higher, if not more. He goes for 37. Mobley there, which look fractionally high. What did he go for? He went for 29 in the last one. So yeah, look, it's on the high end, but I don't think it's disastrous or anything like that. But a bit more than I'd probably pay. Anthony Edwards, a guy who I thought would actually be hyped up to a point where there was no value this season, but that hasn't been the case. I think people have just tempered their expectations a little bit. He's not a first rounder. He's a mid-second rounder. So, yeah, maybe in the James Harden tier, maybe just below. He's sitting at 40. He does, like Wemby to some degree, he has that excitement factor where you probably need to add a couple of dollars to get him. And he does go for $40 there, which... Oh, look, I'm okay with 40 for him. There does seem to be a bit of pricing all over the board here. There hasn't really been a pattern. I mean, Trae Young went for 39. I'm just looking at what I can see on the screen here, and Edwards went for 40. Like I'd pay more for Trae than I would for Anthony Edwards. Harden went for 39. Yeah, look, they're probably similar. Which, it does make the 37 for Mobley look a little bit high. The 35 for Brunson maybe a little bit high. So, yeah, Embiid's sort of an anomaly, I guess. He's Jalen Duren. So, okay, going for a lot more than I thought he would. He's at 25. And that went up pretty quickly. So, yeah, Deadly Ringer gets Jalen Duren for 25. Now, I am high on Jalen Duren. I think people know that both he and Mark Williams are two guys that I'm looking for this season. But 25 for Duren. Have we got anyone else who went for that sort of range? I mean, Şengün went for 32. Yeah, not really anyone to compare him to yet. So we'll see. I think it's too high, but we'll see how it compares to other guys in that range. Jared Allen, Rudy Gobert, Isaiah Hartenstein, who are in that center discussion. DeAndre Ayton, sort of. Okay. Miles Bridges. Yeah, look, he's always a guy that stirs up some emotions in fantasy managers. So I think most people are just, there are still a few out there that just won't draft him, and that's absolutely fine. And then there's others who are of the opinion that, hey, this is fantasy, and God, if you didn't draft any NBA players that had some sort of a history, checkered history, there'd be a few guys that you wouldn't be looking at. Obviously, his was very publicised, but yeah, look, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and that's absolutely fine. Here is my other guy, Mark Williams. So Duran just went for 25, so there is a recency comparison here. It wasn't as though Duran went and then Mark Williams went 4 rounds later. So Mark Williams, he certainly won't get the price that that Duran got because of the injury history, a little bit like LaMelo, but he is sitting at 17, 20. I wouldn't go much higher than 20. 21. Look, maybe as analysts, we're starting to talk people into Mark Williams a bit. 22. And I do think, look, if the Hornets are healthy, if LaMelo stays healthy, if they are at least competitive come February and they're in the discussion for a play-in spot, which I think based purely on talent they could be, and Mark Williams plays 65 games this year, I think he can be a top 30 player. But it's a lot of ifs, and we haven't seen it to this point. So 22 for Mark Williams is... Well, I love it. I love to see it, but I do think it's a little bit, it's a bit too much. But that's based purely on just where he's ranked and where people have him. I think if he reaches that upside, I mean, $22 for a top 30 player is great. Kyrie Irving on the board now. Obviously, Dallas do have that poor playoff schedule again this year, which some are aware of, some care about, some don't. I don't really. I mean, it's obviously in the back of my mind a little bit, but it doesn't impact my valuing of them too much. At least not with their top guys. Kyrie sitting at $31. I will probably bump up, speed up this draft at some point too, once we get through these guys here and people are in a rhythm. He goes for $31. So yeah, look, I mean, that's $8. That's less than Steph, less than LaMelo, less than Brunson, less than Mobley. So yeah, potentially good value there for Kyrie at 31. He went for 33 in the last one that we did. So, yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind 31. We'll just go through the teams now very quickly. So, and apologies if I get the names of these teams wrong, although that shouldn't be too bad. JJ Yum Yum, $116 left. So far has Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Heat Lifer has 154 left, has Giannis. Alex Fantrax has 138 left. He has Anthony Edwards and Mark Williams. Layups and dunks, 115 left. Kawhi and Jokic. Raphael Johnson has 73 left. So he has Shea, Harden, Şengün, and Podziemski. Matt Carmody, well, I'm assuming MD Carmody is Matt Carmody. 131 left. He has Luka and Vooch. Yesak 10 has 131 left with Kyrie and Embiid. Bibin has 150 left. Booker, I didn't talk about Booker. He must have did he just go? Yeah, Booker did just go. Interesting. Okay, so Booker went for 35, was nominated by Heat Lifer. Bibin bid 35 and no one bid at all. So I think that's okay. I think Steph Curry went for 35, Brunson 35. So I think getting Booker for 35 is actually pretty good. I'm surprised no one came in with a $36 bid there. J Lee 181495 has 120 left with Mobley and Sabonis. Deadly Ringer has 90. Brunson, Halliburton, Duran. Nitsa 666 has 163, just LaMelo so far, and then Phil G 23 has $40 left with Curry, Tatum, and Wemby. So Phil will probably just be having a little break from bidding unless any bargain guys come up. A lot of billing here on LeBron. And he goes for $34. Yeah, I mean, we just saw Booker go for 35, LeBron for 34. I think I'd rather Booker. I'd rather Steph. Would I rather Brunson? Nah, potentially not. So that's okay. Yeah, he's really not someone I'm getting in any spots this year, LeBron. He went for, where is he? He went for 26 to Dan Titus in our last draft. So for 35 is that's potentially a bit much. But, I mean, we know what he can do per game. So that it's really all about games played, load management, injuries. I figure his body has to start letting him down at some point, but we are yet to see it. Jordan Poole. So this might give us a good read on someone like a Cam Thomas as well. Jordan Poole goes for $20, which I think we've seen a bit of a pattern here. We saw, as I said, we saw Jalen Duren, Mark Williams, Jordan Poole. All these guys are going for $5 to $7 more than what I would have thought. Is that because there has been a little bit of value at the top of the board? We'll see if that trend continues here with a Jalen Johnson. So Jalen Johnson goes for 30, which is all right. He's another guy that I thought would get overhyped, but it hasn't been the case to this point. And I think getting him for 30 is probably okay. I think I'd rather get him for mid-20s. BBM has him at 21. So, 25. So 30 would be, I think I'd feel more comfortable with that. And he went for 24 in the last draft. So 30, maybe that is a bit of that hype. But look, I do think he's in for a really good year. So you pay, and I mean, if we look at squads so far, Deadly Ringer is probably hasn't got any bargains yet to this point. Halliburton for 50, it's I wouldn't call it a bargain, but it's not terrible either. But then he had Duren for 25, which to me, as I said, was slightly high, but not too bad. If you want to get your guys. Kevin Durant sitting at 24. That's great. If he goes in this range, where did he go? Went for 32 to Noah in the last one that we did. Matt Carmody's got him at 27 at the moment. Raf is in on this one. Now we know Raf doesn't have a lot of money left. He has $73 left, but he still has 8 players to pick. So. Durant's up to 30 now. Raf and Matt Carmody going back and forth here. Sitting at 30, and he goes for 30. I think that's okay. I think that's good value there for Kevin Durant. There's obviously always a bit of concern when it comes to him, given the age. But he's still a very good player, and I think Phoenix having a point guard there is going to help. So, look, I think 30 for Durant feels good. Let's see who is nominated next. Donovan Mitchell, who wasn't nominated till very late in the last draft that we did, because Noah and I were talking about who is the best guy on the board, and it was Donovan Mitchell for a long time. Where is he? So he went for 41 in that last draft, sitting at 27. So Booker went for 35 in this one. I have those two guys pretty close in terms of value and what they do on the court. So based on that, I would say that Donovan might go for mid-30s here. He probably has slightly more upside than Booker, but very similar in terms of what they bring to the court. Maybe Mitchell has, we've got to see it as a consistent thing, but he has a bit more defensive upside. He's at 34, so right in that range. So he goes for 34. So we've seen a good sprinkling of guards there in that range for mid-30s. Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, LaMelo Ball, Jalen Brunson, Devin Booker. Yeah, see, I'd have Brunson about a round below those guys. So, then we had... anyway, Emmanuel quickly on the board. Another guy that I'm trying to get in leagues where he fits my build. He went for 20 in the last draft. He's at 20 now. So Deadly Ring is just shooting his shot here. He's basically just bidding. Let's see if he goes up. So he knows who he wants, and let's see if he goes to 22. This is about where I've got him, around 20. Okay, so he goes for 21. And another guy that has probably top 30 upside if everything goes to plan, and he goes for 20. So a little bit of value there if you compare him to someone like a Mark Williams. Very different in terms of skill set, obviously. Lauri Markkanen, $23. He's probably in that discussion as a second round guy, I would say, and he goes for 23. So again, in that, Lauri, I don't know. He's a tough one to get a read on for me. He went for 25 in the last draft. Basketball Monster has him as a $30 player. It's probably the Utah thing that is just sort of steering people clear of him a little bit because of what we saw last year. And they do have some good young pieces there that they'd like to get out on the court. So, Lauri, based on that, I think 23 is a good price for him, but I do understand why he's going a little bit below value. Herb Jones, a random top 100 nomination, 9, 10, 11. Steals obviously are pretty valuable. I have said on multiple shows that I do think there is some potential to get some steals late in drafts, and that's not necessarily grabbing Herb Jones. I think there are other guys that you can get, but Herb's role is very secure. The Pelicans are going to be a very defensive-minded team this year, and he's up to 15. That's really leaning into that steals and even blocks to some degree value because he does nothing else other than get defensive stats. And I would say, the Basketball Monster values obviously skew to any player that has is elite in one category, and much like it does with Herb Jones, it has him as a top 80 player. He's not a top 80 player. What did he go for in the last one? So he went for $4 in the last draft, and he goes for $17 here. So, I think that the steals are there, but 17 feels too high for me. Kawhi Leonard went for 18. Thought I'd much rather Kawhi Leonard, even though I know we've got the injury concerns. Julius Randle, so one of the potential beneficiaries of the Mitchell Robinson injury. We'll see if Precious Achiuwa gets nominated in this draft. So he's someone that no one was really talking about a week ago, and now I'm not sure he starts, but even if Jericho Sims starts, we've seen that happen before when Hartenstein was there and Sims would only play 15 minutes. So Precious could still get 26, 27 minutes off the bench, and we saw him put up some pretty good numbers down the stretch last year. So Julius Randle going for 16. Let's see if he gets a bump if we compare it. So he went for 13 in the last draft. He goes for 16 here. So maybe a small bump because of that Mitchell Robinson news, but nothing significant at all. Okay. Jalen Williams. So the Jalen Williams, Jalen Johnson, that is a discussion that a lot of people will have, and they tend to get bunched together. Jalen Johnson went for 30. I would prefer Jalen Williams. I like Jalen Johnson a bit more. I think he's fun. He's a little bit more unknown, but I think Jalen Williams is probably a little bit safer just because we've seen a bigger sample size of what he can do. And the team they obviously have a very clear direction and he has a very clear role, where I think Atlanta are a little bit more up in the air at the moment. So for me, Jalen Williams is the preference of the two. He's sitting at 27, so he's getting up towards that $30 price tag. Based on getting Jalen Johnson at 30, if Jalen Williams at 27 feels pretty good to me. Mark Williams obviously went for 22 or something. Jalen Duran went for 25. I'd have Williams above them. So, yeah, I think Williams for 27 is going to be one of the more sneaky value picks of this draft. Let me have a look at where is he in that last one. So he went for 23 in the last one, but Jalen Johnson went for 24. So they went pretty close again. And where is he in the BBM stuff? He is 28, add a little bit, 32 maybe. So, yeah, pretty good value there. Chet Holmgren. His ADP is all over the board, I think, because if you're trying to compete with the Wemby team at the top or Anthony Davis to a lesser degree, then Chet gets a pretty big bump. If you are just of the opinion that, hey, I'm not going to win blocks against those teams, and so I don't need Chet on my team, he tends to slide. So he goes anywhere from on the turn to, well, basically turn to turn. I've seen him available in the 20s, early 20s, and he goes as high as like 12, 13. So he goes for $37. So in that Steph Curry range again, and Booker. Same price as Mobley. So that's interesting. Is that people are slightly down on Chet or slightly up on Mobley? I think it's probably more of the latter. I think it's probably a bit too much to spend on Mobley. Whereas for Chet, I think it's okay. But Kevin Durant went for 32, so I'd have him in that range with Chet. Tyrese Maxey goes for 24, so that's interesting as well, because he tends to be grouped with like a Jalen Brunson when we're talking about guards, upcoming guards and upside and that sort of thing. And Maxey goes for significantly less than Brunson. He goes for $11 less. So I think that's pretty good value there for Maxey. I know the whole Paul George thing is sort of not scared people off, but it has given them a bit of hesitation when it comes to drafting him. But yeah, I think he'll be fine. Scotty Barnes sitting at 25. He's someone that's growing on me a little bit this season. I know he was really good to start last year, and then some of the production fell off a little bit. He had an injury at the end of the season. So, but really good roto guy. So he puts up numbers across the board. 32 for Scotty Barnes. Where is he in here? So BBM, yeah, 28. Scotty Barnes. 35. So he went for 35. He goes for 34 here. So that's that Steph Curry bucket, Devin Booker bucket, which is about right. That's anywhere from the turn on the 1-2 turn through to about pick 20. I think most of those guys seem to be going for around $35. As I have a drink quickly. DeJounte Murray. Yeah, I'm potentially a little higher on him than some. So I certainly wouldn't have him in that $35 range, but would I have him in there with Maxey? Maybe. And I think it is making that $35 for Brunson look a little bit too much because I have him in that discussion as well. I'd probably be okay going low 20s, 25 on DeJounte. He's up to 21, 24, 25. Okay. So maybe people aren't. This is about where I'd be okay, 25. And he goes for 25. So, yeah, I still think he can be a top 30 player with where do we have? So I think I wouldn't be surprised if he and Emmanuel quickly finish in a similar range at the end of the year. But quickly, as we know, he gets a pretty big discount because we haven't seen it from him before. So he went for 21, whereas Murray goes for 25. So, yeah, a little bit of a difference there. 20% difference. Damian Lillard, I think there's a bit of value with him this year. He's not someone that I've really targeted at all, but he's being slept on a little bit, I think, because of last season, but he was still good last year. I know he was pretty slow to start the season. He missed a couple of games because of things, but he was good in the playoffs. No, he didn't play in the playoffs. He was good just in the lead up to the playoffs, playing well. Goes for 20, 21. So, yes, being slept on because he should certainly go for more than Emmanuel quickly. Quickly's in that top 40, top 50 draft range, whereas Lillard is still a second rounder. So I think that's nice value on Damian Lillard. Fred VanVleet, another guy that typically gets underdrafted for whatever reason. I think his field goal percentage, he doesn't score a lot. He's not a 22, 23-point scorer. He's more of a 17, 18. But elite in assists, elite in steals, hits a lot of threes, good from the line. Typically, he's like a second rounder who gets drafted at pick 35. So he's at 16 here. If he goes in that $20 range, $21 range, like we just saw from Lillard and like we've seen from Quickly, I think that's really good value. He's sitting at 19, 20 now. So we'll see if we slow up a bit here, and where I think he's probably a $30 player, but he generally doesn't go that high. Sitting at 21, 22, 23. Where did he go in that draft? He went for 31. So, yeah, as I said, he's like a $30 player, but sometimes gets overlooked. So he's he's slowly building here. He's one of the, like, some players are just, the bidding is quick. It gets high quick. Whereas someone like a Fred VanVleet, I think people are of the opinion that they can get him at value. So the bidding is going to start lower and incrementally make its way up, rather than someone going, hey, look, I want VanVleet for 30. They're going to try and get him for 18 or 22. And he ends up going for 27, which I think is fine for VanVleet there. So if we do a quick recap of the teams, JJ Yum Yum has $30 left with 7 players remaining. Heat Lifer has 154 with 11. Alex Fantrax has 67 with 8. Layups and Dunks has 88 with 9. Raphael Johnson 43 and 7. Matt Carmody 107 and 9. Yesak 10, 115 and 9. Beebin 107 and 8. Jay Lee 181, 495. I'm just going to call him Jay Lee, 86 and 9. Deadly Ringer, 43 and 7. Nitsa, 121 and 9. Phil G, 40 and 9. So a pretty big sort of discrepancy in terms of money remaining. A couple of teams with well over $100, and then we've got some who are as low as 40. So some different strategies, different approaches here. De'Aaron Fox on the board now, sitting at $31. Fox, I would have in that discussion with Steph Curry. I know he has a couple of holes in his game, but would I rather Fox over Curry? I think you could have that argument. depending on what stats you needed. If you want points and threes, obviously Curry, a little bit more upside. But if you want some assists, defensive stuff, and points, I mean, Fox is still going to get his on the offensive end. I think Fox is preferable there. Kobe White, one of the breakouts of last year, I think the hype has tempered on him because Zach LaVine is still there, because Josh Giddey is there. So I think if that hadn't been the case, I think if Zach LaVine had been traded and they hadn't signed Josh Giddey, I think Kobe White would be up in that top 70, top 60 discussion. Probably not up there with Emmanuel Quickly, but certainly above where he is now, and he goes for $5. So, I think he's still a top 100 player, but doesn't have the upside, at least not to start with. All right, where are we? Nick Claxton on the board. So we did talk about that centre bunch of centres, the Jared Allen, Mark Williams, Jalen Duren grouping. Claxton is in that bunch. And look, potentially could be the best of the bunch. He's sitting at 15 now. We did see, as we saw earlier, Duren went for 25. Mark Williams went for 22 or something, I think. Didn't he? Where are we? Sinners. 22. Vooch went for 11. I think that's more about people being down on Vooch, to be honest. 21. So he is getting up there. He's up to 25. Okay, so Snalex. Again, shooting his shot. We went from 21 to 25. He wants him. He got him for 25. So it's interesting that those centers are going at a bit of a premium here, and that was just mentioned in the chat by Phil G that they are. That wasn't the case in that last auction we did. I thought the value on some of those guys was incredible. So interesting bid here, Naz Reid. Very fantasy friendly game, but I'm not sure. Yeah, he's not. I mean, late round, yes. He goes for $3. Is anyone else going to bid? Oh, sorry, I've got to scroll down. We don't have two. No, we don't. He's sitting at 5 now, which, honestly, I guess 5's okay. He's not really a guy that I'm concentrating on at all this year. And in fact, I'm fairly certain I've been in drafts where he hasn't even been drafted. So, but yes, I mean, he fills a role. He's a centre. If you're looking for a cheap second centre who has some offensive upside and doesn't hurt your free throws, he's a good option. DeMar DeRozan, another guy that's usually underdrafted. Let's see where he goes here. Probably a $20 player, I think. I thought Matt Carmody might have snuck him through there for $5, but not the case. Although not a lot of bidding. Only 2 guys going back and forth on DeMar here. So I know we've got a third in. So maybe just people sitting back and watching. As I said, $20 player is sitting at $11 at the moment. So this might be some good value here, unless we get some people coming in. Much like the Fred VanVleet, as I said, he is one of those guys people know you can maybe sneak him through at value. So he's not going to be someone is just going to go, 20, and then it'll get up in those high numbers quickly. There's going to be people, as we've seen, he goes for 14. Very nice value there for DeRozan, I think. I'd have him as a $20 player, as I said. Even Basketball Monster has him as 22 and add a little bit 25. So getting him for 14, I don't know what he went for in that last one, but let's have a look. He went for 19. So by all accounts, a good value pick there, DeRozan at 14 to layups and dunks. Jalen Green. Yeah, he's not really someone I've landed with in any of my mocks or real drafts for that matter. Had a really good stretch last year, but Houston had some injuries. They've got, they've got Reed Shepherd there, obviously. Jalen Green, $6. Yeah, look, I think $6 is okay for Jalen Green. I don't know. I guess in theory he can be in that Jordan Poole, Cam Thomas sort of discussion as a 20+ point scorer, some assists, not much on the defensive end. I'm just not sure where he fits with Houston, and there's so many mouths to feed there. So that's just why I sort of don't have him in that discussion. But getting him for $6 is sort of a really, you're not really losing anything there by bidding $6. Cat goes for 20. Well, he's sitting at 20, 21. We've seen Duran go for 25. We've seen Claxton go for 25. I know Cat isn't the player he was 3 years ago before Rudy Gobert got there, but I still think Cat, of all of those guys, has arguably the best or the most fantasy-friendly game because he doesn't really hurt you. He doesn't have that upside in blocks or rebounds or anything anymore, but he hits threes, he hits his free throws. So he 24. Yeah, I think that's good value for Cat based on what we've seen these other centers going at. I think that's nice. And where is he? Towns. Okay, so Basketball Monster, not as high on him. They have him in that $15 range, but add a little bit. I mean, they have him in the Vooch discussion. And what did he go for in the last one? He went for 24 in the last draft. So that's it looked pretty similar. So I still think it's okay value, but Paolo Banchero, all right, someone else that I'm potentially stupidly high on this season. I've made it pretty clear I'm okay to take him top 40 this year. And sitting at 15, I think Josh Lloyd got him from memory for about $22 in that last draft, which I thought was okay. I know there is some risk because of the percentages, but I like his trajectory. I like the team's trajectory. He's sitting at 18 now, and or 19. So we'll see if he goes in that range of that quickly range. I'll call it the quickly range of 20, 21. He goes for 19. So having a look at other players who went in that range. So Poole went for 20, quickly 21. DeRozan went for 14. So would you rather DeRozan or Banchero? I think Banchero has the upside, but DeRozan pretty safe in that range. I think the centers are basically creating a void here or a category of their own when it comes to pricing. So I think Paolo for 19 is great. I love that price for him, especially if you're punting. And who won him? B-Bin won him punting. Yeah, it's probably not a great fit, although given potentially punting field goal percentage with Booker, Jordan Poole, Miles Bridges, Larry Markin, and Paolo. So, but the free throws, I mean, with those guys, you can probably absorb Paolo's hit in the free throw department. So he's actually probably an okay fit in that team there. Zion on the board now, sitting at $23. Another one who hasn't been as hyped as I thought he might be, given we saw the photos and he looks healthy and all of that stuff. You're right, Deadly Ringer. Yes, Heat Lifer did want him, and Heat Lifer got him for $24, which I think is fine. again, he's categorically, he has some downfalls, but let's have a look at the team. Heat Lifer. Oh, yeah. De'Aaron Fox, Giannis, and Zion. So punting, free throws. So absolutely fine with Zion there. Love to see people punting, don't we? Desmond Bain, bit of a forgotten man in fantasy. So coming into last year, he was sort of in the second round discussion, and I feel like he's nowhere near that this year. I think people are just, Jar is back and Marcus Smart is there full season. So what's Bain going to be able to do? But I still think Bain is again, let's go back to Quickly. Would I rather Quickly or Bain? I think I'd rather Bain. As high as I am on Quickly, I think Bain's done it. We've seen it. And again, Memphis are going to be pushing for playoffs. So Desmond Bain for $14 feels fantastic to me. He went for 19 in that last draft. Yeah, nice value there for Deadly Ringer. And look, that's, as I said, like I thought Deadly Ringer probably slightly overpaid for Jalen Duren, Herb Jones, and Jalen Brunson. But then he got Desmond Bain for 14, and that's arguably $10 under value. So very nice there. Cam Johnson, another forgotten man of fantasy after a pretty ordinary year last year. He's one of the guys, I think I popped him in my tweet that I did last night about some late category targets or one category targets, and I had him in my points list. I think he could be a nice source of points if he can get back to what he was doing 2 years, 3 years ago when he was in Phoenix and when he came to Brooklyn. Then I think he could push back into that top 80 discussion, and you can typically get him, outside 120. And he goes for $6, so the same price as Jalen Green. So I think based on that, I think that's okay. Raf got him, and as we know, Raf goes hard early, so he does need to fill his roster with sort of players under 10 or preferably under $5, and he's got Pajemski and Cam Johnson there for 7 and 6. And look, I guess you could think, well, if he'd waited, he didn't nominate them, so he did nominate Cam Johnson actually, so he was probably just someone he wanted. But if he had waited, if he'd nominated like a Paul George there, get some more money off the board, and just waited for Cam Johnson to be nominated, could he have got him for $3 or $4? Maybe. But if you want him, you go and get him. Ja Morant, $15. Another guy who I think the hype has not reached where I thought it would. We know that in terms of fantasy, he does have some flaws which drag down his overall value. But Ja Morant for $16, wow, that's surprising. I want to have a look what he went for. So he went for 22 in the last draft. BBM has him as they only have him as 11, but as I said, you know that the overall value is skewed when you look at Jar's game because he has his high turnovers, his percentages are not good, so he's a little bit like a Paolo. But Jar is consistently going inside the top 40, so to get a top 40 draft target for $16. Very good. Layups and dunks gets him. So he got Fred VanVleet for 27, Kawhi for 18, DeRozan for 14, Jokic for 67. So he got that one big player, and then he's building a nice group of mids, and he's got 7 guys left, $58. So he's looking at sort of $8 to $9 left per player, which once we get into these lower rounds, there's certainly a lot of value that you can get on those sorts of guys. So building a nice team. So just a quick check-in on the money. We've got one. So Matt Carmody has 102. Yesak 10 has 115, and Nitsa has 121. So there's still a few teams with over $100 left here. So playing the waiting game, which of course we know there are a lot of strategies you can do. We've got so Paul George went off the board while we were talking for 19. Very good value. Very, very good value. People are down on him a little bit this year. I don't want Keontae George, but I think he's probably still a borderline second rounder. Basketball wants to has him at 33. I don't. Yeah, I think people are down on him a bit too much to pay that much for him. He went for 30 in that last draft, but look, getting him for 19, Heat lifer. Have we looked? Oh yeah, he's the punt free throw team. So an interesting fit there, given he is very good from the free throw line. But for $19, I think you have to take him. Jaren Jackson sitting at $25. I know he wasn't great last year, but I would definitely have him in a tier above Cat and Mark Williams and Jalen Duren, those guys. And he's just crept above them. He's sitting at 27 now. And he goes for 27. As I just... Oh, yeah, that's fine. 27 for Jaren, good value. Obviously, the blocks upside there. I think he'll have a better season, despite the fact that Memphis are going to have a lot more depth and players around him. I think that actually helps Jaren Jackson. So he won't be expected to be the first or even second option on offense, whereas last year he was for big stretches, long stretches. So I think, I think Jaren could be a sneaky value guy this year. Darius Garland, look, he was pretty average last year. I had him in one of my major leagues, and he was it was disappointing, but could be in for a bit of a bounce back. I still think that he can be a top 30 player at some point. Going to be hard with Donovan Mitchell there, but you have to remember back, Garland had head, neck injuries last year, and they do take a while to get over. And I think he might have suffered a couple of concussions, so they were sort of the same injury. Obviously unlucky, but coming back from those kinds of injuries is not something you don't step back on the court and you're back at 100%. So I give him a bit of a pass given the injuries he had. So I think if he can stay healthy and he goes for $18, this is maybe good value. I think that's sort of the range you're going to get him in, 15 to 18. So I think you just hope that he can get back on track this year. So Keon Ellis, interesting. Another guy that I don't think he's been drafted in all of my leagues. He wouldn't. He went for $3. Yeah. So who nominated? So Deadly Ringer nominated him, and Deadly Ringer obviously. We said he sort of spent quite a bit of his money, so he's going after the guys he wants now. He has $21 left with 4 players, so not too bad. Like four guys, $5 a guy. As I said, later in drafts you will get guys for that price. So getting Keon if that's trying to boost those steals, obviously. Josh Giddey on the board now, sitting at $8. I think he'll be another one he'll go for more than 8. Obviously, he's up to 10, but the bidding is going to be very incremental. It's going to be $1 bids, and I think it's hard, tough to get a read on him. I think some people are really high on him for what he might be able to do, but he's yet to do it. He's in a really good spot in Chicago, but word is that Lonzo is doing 5-on-5, could be ready for opening night, but how cautious are the Bulls going to be with him? I think if this had been the Bulls last year and we were in this exact situation with Lonzo, you would have expected them to maybe push him a little bit because they had visions of making play-in, playoffs, all that sort of stuff. Whereas now I don't think they do. I think they're a little more realistic after having parted ways with DeRozan and Vooch at some point. I would assume will move. Levine, does he move? But I think even if Lonzo is healthy, they're going to be really cautious with him. So he won't play every game. He won't play big minutes. On the other hand, I do think Levine is a bit of a sleeper this year now that DeRozan is gone. If we remember back to pre-DeRozan, Levine was really good and coming off a really bad year where he had injuries and there was lots of talk of him being traded. I think he could come out and want to prove some people wrong. So Giddey goes for $15. Jaylen Brown then goes for $18. I like that for Jaylen Brown. He is who he is at this point. His free throws are a little bit of a worry, but for 18, and again, I come back to Emmanuel quickly. He went for 21. Who would I rather? Jaylen Brown definitely safer. So I think getting him for 18 is perfectly fine. Derek White. Yeah, White's an interesting one because if you look at his rank, really good, but that value comes from his low volume categories that he's good in. So he is a very good player. Oh, excuse me for yawning. But he fits certain builds and not others. So yeah, if you like what he does, he's worth a lot. And if you don't, then he's not worth anything. So he goes for $13, which I think he's usually going to go at good value unless there's a lot of players that are just punting points or chasing that defensive upside from the guard spot. So, Derek White for 13, nice value there. I think, did I see Jimmy Butler? I did, yes. Jimmy Butler on the clock now or on the board. Another guy I'm not interested in, Jimmy, this year. I know the per game upside is there, but I've never really had him, but I've never regretted that. I think I might have had him 1 year if I think back, but yeah, did he go? Did he? Jimmy Butler for $10. Look, he's going to be a value pick in most leagues because people just aren't interested in him. Like me, I wouldn't even get involved in bidding, and we only saw 3 guys put a bid, and he goes for $10. So that could be really good. It could blow up in your face if he only plays 35 games, but for $10, I think certainly worth a fly. And when I say I'm not interested in him, I wouldn't be looking at him. But if I was at $10, I'd certainly take him. And then on the other side of that discussion, Brandon Miller, who was healthy last year, put together a strong rookie season. I think obviously overshadowed by Chet and Wemby, but he was quietly a really good rookie, and I think the Hornets would have been really happy with what he offered. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits alongside a healthy LaMelo with Mark Williams there, with Miles Bridges still there. What does his role look like this year? But again, he goes for $10. So there's that discussion there of per game upside, totals upside, youth, age, all that stuff. And both Jimmy Butler and Brandon Miller go for $10. Porzingis, word is that, he's progressing as expected. Should be back on the court in December. He has said he's hoping to be back before then, but we know that the Celtics aren't going to rush him back. So I think we'd expect a December return. I actually thought Christmas Day might be his return, but maybe he's back slightly before that. But yeah, all on track and probably a top 100 player. He goes for $5, which, yeah, look, layups and dunks got him. And just having a look at his roster. Yeah, look, his roster's almost full. Now, I did 12 deep for this league. So I didn't want to make it. Standard's probably 13 or 14, but I only went 14 because it's a mock. So here is Bam. So Raf has re-entered the bidding, but can only go. I mean, Raf can only go to $9 anyway. So he was never really going to get banned for $9. Sitting at 14 now, 16. So again, Mark Williams, Jalen Duran 25, Cat 24. Bam is in that discussion for me. I think certain people have him probably above those guys. I don't. I have Bam in that range because of the lack of blocks, and the free throws are they're not bad, but he does have games where he's really bad, and I experienced that last year. So he's sitting at 20, but $20, good value. Heat lifer wouldn't make sense that he might be after Bam here. Sitting at 21, he gets him for 21. Good value. Again, probably not someone I'm going to draft in a lot of spots this year, but compare him to some of the value that we've had on those other centers. He went for less than Mark Williams, and as high as I am on Mark Williams, I would have Bam above him in where I'm drafting them. And Şengün went for 32. I think they're two guys that are comparable in terms of their draft position at the moment. So getting him for $11, very nice for Heat lifer. Cade Cunningham, yet to break out, but I like what Detroit have done this offseason, and I'm hoping that translates to on-court, not necessarily results, but on-court performances. They're competitive. They are not just resting guys for the sake of resting guys, at least not for the first few months. So Cade, I'm still pretty high on him. Obviously, Dynasty very high, but in redraft, relatively high on him here. And I would have him in that Paolo range. Paolo went for, what did he go for? I'm going to find him. Remember all these prices. Paolo, maybe he's down here somewhere. Oh, anyway, he went for like 20 or something. But yeah, look, I think Cade is sitting at 23, 24, 25. This is about where I'd want to take him. Because I like him, I might go slightly higher, but I think the $25 range is about right. He's up to 26 now. And I'm probably going to speed this up in a minute. Let me just top something in here. I'm going to... Here we go. So he's up to 30, Cade. And as I said, I would go a little higher on him because I like him. So getting him for 30 is, look, it's probably on the high end, but if you like him, you get him. If you've got money to spend, you get him. And we will speed the time. I will remind everyone we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Twitter for this show. So it's still doing some live Twitter shows. But if you are watching on Twitter, really appreciate if you could click the YouTube link and just head over and like and subscribe to our channel. Now is sort of a really big growth time for us and for all fantasy basketball analysts, to be honest. I've noticed, as have a number of other analysts, a pretty big uptick in follows and people sharing and that sort of thing. So obviously we're only 4 weeks away. I think 4 weeks today, actually, from the start of the NBA season. So we are entering October and entering draft season. So it's a good opportunity for us to spread the word about what we do. And my show, as I have said, probably not next week, but potentially the week after, once the preseason starts, I will be doing 5 days a week, as well as some collaborative shows with others, because we are all about collaboration in the fantasy basketball world. So yes, really appreciate subscribing and liking and all of that stuff over on those platforms. That would be great. And if you, if you're enjoying this auction draft and you're looking to join leagues, head over to Discord or our website. And I know BW has just launched those redraft leagues, and I'm pretty sure we run like 100 leagues or over 100 leagues. So I think he rolls them out until the interest is gone. So. Plenty on offer, plenty of different buy-ins and formats and things like that. So, do head over there if you would like to join a league. Miles Turner was nominated and went for $24, which is basically in line with what we've seen from these centers. I'm going to be curious to see what Rudy Gobert goes for when he is nominated. Jarrett Allen has not been nominated yet. Who else? DeAndre Ayton, Isaiah Hartenstein. They're probably the guys the remaining centers that are in that range. So he goes for 24. Franz Wagner goes for 13. Wow, that feels very nice. He's a top 50 player for sure. Let's have a look. Franz Wagner. So a $22 player on BBM. And in the analyst went for 19. So, yes, very nice value, $13 there for Beebin. Jalen Suggs. So, Fran's teammate Jalen Suggs goes for $6, which is, look, I mean, that's in there with Jalen Green. I'd rather Jalen Suggs because I think he does a little bit more on both ends of the floor. But, I think Suggs for 6 is good. Here is Isaiah Hartenstein. Let's see if this bidding gets up into the 20s for him. He's a little different to those guys that we've sort of talked about because he doesn't have the blocks upside. He's not really going to be featured at all offensively. We don't know if he's coming off the bench. I think it's going to be a bit of a mixture. So a little bit of uncertainty, but he has potentially the highest upside in assists, steals. He's very efficient, doesn't kill your free throws. He's not super elite, but he's not terrible either. And he goes for $11. So that is very nice value there for Nitsa to get Hartenstein for $11. So we've got anyone with 100. So Nitsa still has 110 left. And he is the only team with that money left. So I'm going to speed up this nomination time limit to 15 and initial bid to 15. Now, update limits. There we go. Okay. And we'll just pop time limits up. Updated. All right, so we'll see if this just gets us moving a little bit quicker. Not that we're going slow. These auction. Are we drafting the reserve spots? Yes, I think so. Pretty sure I set it up to draft reserve spots as well. Okay, what did we have? So Hartenstein 11, Siakam 14, fantastic value. So we're seeing a bit of value here with some of these later bigs going. Siakam is a probably $20 player, I think. DeAndre Ayton goes for, still going actually 15. So Ayton goes for more than Hartenstein, but not as much as Duran Williams. And where would we have Ayton in there? I'm not an Ayton guy, but I do think he's offensively, he probably has the highest upside of all of these players. Defensively, the lowest. So as long as he's sleeping in the right bed, then he should be okay. So I think 15 for Ayton is pretty good. Rudy Gobert. So he went for 11 in that last draft. I remember that because I thought that was really good value. I would have him in that range with Mark Williams, with Jalen Duran, with Jarrett Allen, as I've said. and he goes significantly cheaper, $12. So interesting. We had some hypey kind of young centers who went early and went over value, and now we're getting some more proven guys who aren't as exciting, like Gobert, DeAndre Ayton, Jarrett Allen here on the board, who are going for good value. So let's see where Jarrett Allen fits into those two groups. Is he going to go here for 13, or is he going to be bumped up a little bit more? Carmody gets him for 13, so good value again. And you will see this. So so we've basically had 5 or 6 centers go in a row. If we want to count Siakam as a center, he is center eligible. So once there's a couple of centers nominated, people will notice that and then go, okay, well, I'm going to nominate another center and then another center, and until the run is done. And we've pretty much wiped out that little bucket of centers that I talked about 5 minutes ago. They're all gone now. So Tobias Harris, let's see where he goes. He's another guy like DeMar DeRozan, like Fred VanVleet, who is usually undervalued. But I think with him now being in Detroit and featuring a little bit more, people aren't sleeping on him as much. But in saying that, $9, wow. That's I'm not even a Tobias Harris guy, and I think that's pretty good value. He went for 15 in the last one. BBM has him as a $20 player. $9, wow. Okay. Very nice value for Tobias. Dan Besbris would be loving that pick. Trace Jackson-Davis, a guy that I'm pretty high on as a late round pick. I think, probably a $5 player. Raf will be hoping for the same. Very nice, Raf. $5 for Trace Jackson-Davis. Upside to be a top 80 player. Probably doesn't get there because I just don't think he'll play enough. But certainly very good at what he does well. Jamal Murray, who a little bit like Desmond Bain, a bit of an forgotten sort of fantasy guy. He ended the season injured. He didn't look good at the Olympics. What's his health like coming into the season? We haven't heard yet. So his value might solidify once we get an indication of during the preseason of whether he's fully healthy, ready to go, or whether they're sort of easing him back in a little bit. We haven't heard anything, but we might in the next week. So you're sort of hedging your bets a bit with Jamal Murray, but probably a top 50, $20 range. I think that feels about right, and he's sitting right at $20 now. 21. 23. Okay, so he's climbing a little bit here. Up to 25. That's a bit higher than I thought, actually. I didn't think he'd get to that height. And what did let's have a look. Where was Desmond Bain? What did Bain go for? So Bain went for 14 and Jamal Murray goes for 25. Honestly, I'd rather have Bain. So very good value for Bain. I don't think the 25 is outlandish for Jamal Murray, but I think it just makes that $14 look really good for Bain. Here is Zach LaVine, as I said, someone that I'm quietly high on. You can get him in the 60s in redraft standard sort of snake draft leagues. Let's see if he sneaks through as a value guy here. I mean, I'd have him in the Jamal Murray range, which would put him at 25. But I didn't think Jamal would get to that price. I don't think LaVine will either. $8. Wow. Layups and dunks. Hitting home runs. $8 for LaVine is very nice, in my opinion. I'd have him as a $20 player. But, I mean, you can get him cheaper. But, yeah, I'd have him in that top 50 range, and that's, I mean, he's going there for 8. That's $2 more than Jalen Green. Mikal Bridges, I think he's sort of settled. I think we've settled on Mikal Bridges and who he is. He isn't who Brooklyn wanted him to be, but he's certainly better offensively than what Phoenix allowed him to do. So he is settling in that 60 range. I think it would be nice for him and for New York and for anyone that drafts him for this. So this season, the hope is that with less responsibility offensively, he can focus a little bit more on the defensive end and get those stats back up, because that is what his game was built on, was free throws and obviously durability. So let's see if Tom Thibodeau can run him into the ground. This year he goes for $13, which is about right. Mikal Bridges, yes. Jabari Smith. Yeah, I'm not sure people know what to do with Jabari Smith. I thought he was okay last year. I had him in a couple of teams, and he's just one of those guys that sort of does what he does and doesn't. I think he had 1 or 2 offensive explosions last year where he had like 40 points or high 30s or something. But beyond that, he'll get you a block and get you a steal. Maybe he'll hit 1 or 2 threes. His efficiency's pretty good. Just not that exciting yet. So I think there's still room for him to grow into his role a bit. But as I said, with Houston, there's a lot of depth there. And Şengün has taken off as that starting center. So, yeah, I think Smith is fine. He goes for $8, which is about right. Yusuf Nurkic coming off a pretty good year last year. And, yeah, I had him in a couple of teams, and I thought he was pretty good. And I know Phoenix have announced their starting lineup this morning. Tyus Jones, as we expected, is going to be the starting point guard. So, yeah, look, Nurkic is not going to be high priority offensive guy, anything like that. But he gets some assists, he gets steals. Free throws again aren't terrible; they're very up and down. But he goes for $14. So he's probably in that next bunch of centers. Brook Lopez is probably sitting there as well. Maybe Walker Kessler, Jakob Poeltl, Dan Gafford, Ivica Zubac. So they're the bunch, the sort of centers you can get closer to 100 than 50. And Nurk is in that bunch, and he goes for 14. So let's see what these other guys go for. Tari Eason on the board for $4. People are, again, not really sure, I don't think, what to do with him, given that he has to compete with a lot of guys for minutes and he's coming off an injured season. So obviously a very fantasy-friendly game and could be a real steal this year if they do decide to play him 28 minutes a night and get him out there. But he goes for $5. So he goes for 5. Jalen Green goes for 6. Who would you rather? Probably Jalen Green, but I think Tari Eason obviously can do a little bit more across the board, so it would depend on your build. Anthony Simons, he is someone you can get late-ish and could potentially be a 25-point scorer, 23 to 25, depending on what Scoot does and what Jeremy Grant does and what Ayton does. A lot of question marks in Portland, but Simons is part of that young core for them. Well, at the moment he is. He's sitting at $9. So I mean, what, Levine went for 8, did he? Something like that. So I would say that really good for Levine. $9 for Anthony Simons is probably okay. I think he's probably, $10, 8 to 10. So he's right in there. Trey Murphy. Now, if we remember back, Herb Jones went for 17. Let's see what Trey Murphy goes for, because I would absolutely take Trey Murphy over Herb Jones in a snake draft. So he's up to $9. Let's see, sitting at 9. Is Matt Carmody going to get him? He does for 9. Very good value if we compare him to Herb Jones. So have we got anyone filled out yet? No one complete. Deadly Ringer only has 2 left. Beebin has 3. Matt Carmody has 4. Raf has 4. Layups and dunks 4. So we're starting to get into that back end now. Have we got 80? So Trey Murphy was the 84th pick. So and I will do another speed up of the clock at some point to try and get this moving. I was hoping for inside 2 hours, but I think it would have had to have a quicker clock. And I know there are a couple of guys in here who've never done an auction, so it is a learning experience. But yeah, typically if you are looking at doing an auction for one of your leagues, certainly, I mean, it's certainly my preferred method of drafting, and especially with the way that it's looking at the top of the draft this year, I think it really levels the playing field. But it does warrant, as we're seeing now, and as we've seen in the last one, at least 2 hours, and yeah, potentially more depending how deep your rosters are and that sort of thing. So Tyler Hero goes for $9, which I think is that's okay. Yeah, that's he's sort of top 80, top 70. So in that Anthony Simons range. So that's about right. Cam Thomas goes for $6, which is I think pretty good value there. I think he's probably in that top 80 discussion with those guys I just talked about, but certainly has the highest upside in terms of points per game. So Cam Thomas, another good pick there for layups and dunks, who got Levine as well. So yeah, a couple of really nice late picks. Got DeRozan for 14. Yeah, nice. Some nice value there. OG Anunoby, someone that people are pretty low on from what I've seen. I've managed to get him in a few mocks and things like that, close to 100, which was unheard of 2 years ago, even last year. So $10 at the moment, that puts him in that top 90 range. That's about where he's going. As I said, in snake drafts, he's up to 11 now. And another guy whose value is obviously built pretty heavily on one category, being steals, and he goes for $11. But let's compare him to like a Herb Jones who went for 17. Anunoby goes for 11. Both very similar in terms of what they bring to the table. I'd probably rather Anunoby, but I understand why you might lean into Herb a bit more because of the fact that he's not going to be run into the ground every night, whereas Anunoby will be. Dante DiVincenzo, coming off a career year last year, but that was due to injuries to Julius Randle and Mitch Robinson. Randle is back, but Robinson is out. So do they shift Randle to the center at all and play a little bit more of Dante in the backcourt? Potentially. I think he wasn't even really being drafted before we got that news, and now he's a pretty good target in that last 130, 140 range, and he goes for $4. So I think that's for $4. Yeah, look, worth a shot there because you might get 2 or 3 months of top 80 value from him. So look, I mean, looking at names on the board, if we wanted to talk about some guys that we're still not sure where they fit or their value. Devin Vassell, who I think we talked about earlier in the show about his injury. Let's see how he is impacted. Brandon Ingram is sitting there. We've got Walker Kessler, Scoot, a few centers, those guys I talked about, Alex Caruso, Draymond Green, the Thompson twins, who I'm getting in a lot of drafts. Beal did go for $12 there as well, by the way. Chris Paul, John Collins, Keontae George. So we're definitely into that that range of the draft now where you're just hunting for upside and hoping that you hit on one or two of your guys. Taylor Hendricks, Dyson Daniels, friend of the show, Dyson Daniels, sitting there as well. So Brooke Lopez, I think people are down on him. I think just his age, and he slowed a bit last year, and he goes for $7. But I mean, for $7, very good. Not someone that I'm typically going after, but I have him in that center range I said with Zubats and Kessler here on the board, and Lopez is by far the lowest or the cheapest at $7. So very nice there for Brook Lopez. Walker Kessler. Look, if he plays 28 minutes, he blows through this range, top 50. But yeah, the way he was utilised last year is still, it sticks with me. I have a bit of concern there because Taylor Hendricks looked pretty good, and he can fill that power forward or small ball centre role as well. So yeah, does Kessler start, or does he come off the bench? Does he play 20 minutes or 26 or 28? So a lot of question marks. Preseason is hopefully going to answer a lot of these questions. Amen Thompson, who I'm doing my best to push his ADP up. I've taken him in the 100 range, 110 range, but that's been in a specific build. And again, the Houston, the whole rotation question does raise some issues regarding his playing time. He could play 18 minutes. He could play 25. I think they try to find 25 for him, given what we saw down the stretch last year. So he's sitting at $8 and $10. So probably higher than I thought. So I think he's growing on people, which I love to see. I think his game is really good. And he goes for $10. So based on what I'm seeing, that is a bit high, but I'm okay with it because I think if he plays enough, he could certainly be a top 80 player. But yeah, there's certainly question marks there. Draymond Green next. I'm not a big Green guy, but I did draft him in at least one mock, I think. Let's see where he goes. What did Trace Jackson Davis, Raf got him? What did he get him for? $5. So would I rather the upside of Trace Jackson Davis or the consistent boringness of Draymond Green and getting ejected? He's at 6 now. I wouldn't go much more than 6 for Draymond, to be honest. I mean, I probably wouldn't be in a bidding war for him, but $7, yeah. $8, $9, yeah. This is too high for me, I think. I know that he has a well-rounded game, but he's just not for me. Just not for me. And that's more of a personal choice than anything. $11, $12. Okay. There's two guys really want Draymond Green. Jay Lee and Heat Life are going backwards and forward. 13, they're just, I don't know if they both want him or whether they're just trying to get the other one's money off the board. He goes for $13. Too much for me, for my liking. So the rosters are pretty full now. Starting lineups are all full. So we're into the flex. We're into the reserves for everyone. Here is Devin Vassell, 2 to 3. So for a reference, where did he go? He went for $21 in the industry draft, and BBM has him as a $14 player. So again, if we're adding our 10 to 20%, 15%, he's probably an $18, $19 player. But of course, we do know he's going to miss the start of the season. Whether that lingers with the Spurs being the Spurs, there's a chance that means he's managed a little bit. I still think he can be a top 50 player per game. It's just, does he hit 60 games? So he goes for $11. So I think that's about right. I think that's a bit of a hedge both ways. As I said, he's probably sort of an $18 player, $17. And yeah, a nice little discount there because of the injury to B-Bin. Brandon Ingram. He's been going even in snake drafts. I've seen Trey Murphy going above Brandon Ingram, which I get, but I still don't know if I'd do it as long as Ingram is still there in New Orleans. And he goes for $9. So again, Herb Jones went for 17. So I think that's pretty good value there for Brandon Ingram, despite the uncertainty. I think he is still closer to 20 than 10. So to get him for 9 is very nice. Jonathan Kuminga now on the board. And yeah, one of these upside guys coming off a good year. Where is he going to go? What is his upside? It's probably top 70, maybe. I think his role is relatively safe this season, unlike last year. So there is a little bit of certainty when you draft him that he's at least going to get an opportunity. But yeah, we'll see. But I think for $7, yeah, good amount there. Aaron Neesmith, yeah, I agree there. So Phil G he's just popped in the chat there. Don't understand the hype with this guy for Aaron Neesmith, and he wins. JJ Yum Yum gets him for $1. Look, he was pretty good last year. I mean, it was obviously it's probably as much of a breakout as we're going to see from a guy like Aaron Neesmith, and I think he still plays meaningful minutes this year. But there's not a lot of upside there for me. I know I had him in at least one team, and I think I just ended up dropping him. He's a little bit up and down. He gets some defensive stuff. I think he's one of those players whose game, his real life game is better than his fantasy game. So his efforts on the court don't always translate to fantasy value. But for $1, I mean, if you want him and you get him for $1, that's fine. Scoot Henderson next, sitting at $9, and he goes for $9. So that's probably a bit higher than I've seen him going, but just having a look what he is another one of these players whose value is really dragged down by the fact that his percentages and turnovers and things like that. So he went for $5 in our last one, which I think is a fairer value. He goes for $9 here, so maybe slightly overpaid there, but I do like Scoot for this year. Dan Gafford, per game, really good. We just don't know what his minutes are going to look like with Derek Lively. Who do they start? I think it'll be Lively, or it could be Gafford. I think that's probably the role is secondary. I think the playing time is probably the bigger question, and I think Lively plays more minutes. So I think whether he starts or comes off the bench, Lively is 26, Gafford is 22. But in 22, Gafford can still be a top 100 player. So he goes for $5, which is fine. Very limited in what he does, but he's fairly durable, despite the fact he goes to the locker room a lot. He doesn't miss a lot of games. So Gafford is good there for $5. Middleton, someone else that I'm not really touching this year. I mean, we know who he is, but those injuries, he had double ankle surgery. That's enough to steer me clear of him. And he goes for $6, which I think, again, is another one of those hedge your bets kind of plays where if he plays 60 games and you get a top 70 guy, then it's certainly worth $6. And if he plays 40 games and he struggles, then you lost $6. Drew Holiday, $9. Another sort of forgotten fantasy guy. Obviously took a few steps back just in terms of production last year because he didn't need to do a lot of stuff on that Boston team. So he goes for $9. He's still going to be a top 80 player. So I think $9 is not terrible. But yeah, maybe I'd have him as a $7 player, slightly cheaper, but not a big difference. D'Angelo Russell, it sounds like JJ Redick is all in on him as the starting point guard. So I think we're at least assured of his role and his playing time, at least to start the season. Maybe some poor play changes JJ Redick's mind. But at the moment, it does appear as though D'Angelo Russell will get good run, and he is at $11. And he goes for $11, which, yep, that's fine. $11. Maybe it's a slight overpay, but points and assists late in drafts tend to get a bump. RJ Barrett, coming off a really nice end to the year. He obviously missed time because of some family stuff, but when he was on the court, he looked good. He played well for Canada in the Olympics. So I think he's very rejuvenated. Let's say he's rejuvenated coming into this season. So I think definitely it'll be his best season. Well, should be his best season from a statistical standpoint and probably a fantasy standpoint. He appears to have figured out or worked through some of his issues. At least the field goal percentage, free throw percentage, still a little bit up in the air, but maybe he can work on that this year as well. Won't give you a lot more outside of points. Threes, field goal percentage. Oh, as I yawn again. And he's sitting at 15, which I'm high on him, but 15 feels pretty high, and that is potentially that bump of points late. So interesting, for example, that he went for 15, and what did Cam Thomas go for? It was less than that. Oh, stop scrolling. Hang on. I'm just going to drag this down so I can see. Where did Cam Thomas go? So Cam Thomas went for $6. RJ Barrett went for 15. I'd rather Cam. So that's a direct comparison of two players, obviously. But I think that's probably more about Barrett being overpriced there than Thomas being underpriced. Tyus Jones, I said earlier, announced as the starter for Phoenix, which we expected, goes for $6. Nice. Assists to turnover ratio very low. So if you can get a guard late in drafts who gets you assists and steals without turning the ball over, certainly adds some value. So Tyus Jones for $6. And Jalen Green went for $6. Tyus Jones went for $6. Who would you rather? Quite different. I think I'd rather... Well, unless I need points, I'm going Tyus. Let's put it that way. Jakob Poeltl, he was in that centre bunch there, and he goes for $13, which I think is okay. So B-Bin is actually done. So his team is done. You can see there, if I scroll down, you can see B-Bin's team. Booker, Poole, Miles Bridges, Markkanen, Turner, Banchero, Wagner, Siakam, Simons, Kessler, Vassell, Jones. So if we talk about strategies and stars and scrubs versus balanced, very balanced team, this one. So most expensive player was Booker for 35, and a lot of guys in that sort of 15 to 20 to 25 range. Some nice value. Vassell for 11, Siakam for 14, Wagner for 13, Paolo for 19, Markkanen for 23, Bridges for 15. So, yeah, very balanced in terms of prices. Anyway, so I'm not. I'll probably do a breakdown of the teams in terms of stats and things like that on a separate show. I'm not going to tack another 20 minutes onto the end of this already long show. Jakob Poeltl went for 13. Ivica Zubac goes for 19. Interesting. Zubac, obviously no competition for minutes really, so could be his best year. But doesn't really block shots, but better free throws. Yeah, look, I think 19, it's an interesting price for him. I think it's okay, but I think compared to what we've seen from some of these centers in that range, probably overpriced slightly. Alex Caruso, another guy whose value is bolstered by his defensive stats, low volume categories. usually equate to fantasy value, and he goes for $13, which is I'm okay with that, but I do think it's probably a fraction high, unless you really just need his defensive stuff. Who took him? Nitzer. Let's have a look at Nitzer's team. Did he need defensive stuff? Yeah, look, his guards. I mean, he's got LaMelo there. He does have Mikal Bridges. Yeah, look, I mean, get some steals. Lillard's not going to get you much on the defensive end. Derek Lively here, sitting at $7. Gafford went for $5, so potentially of the opinion, as I am, that Lively will play more minutes than Gafford. Sitting at $9. See, I wouldn't have him in that discussion with Lopez and those guys there at the moment. He could certainly push his way into that discussion, but yeah, going for $11. Okay. $11 to Matt Carty. His team must almost be done. Yeah, he has one left. So looking at money, who has the most? So Nitzer still has $63, so hasn't really managed the money too well here because there's really no one left on the board that's significantly more than $10. There might be a couple of guys that go for a few dollars over 10, but he can basically get who he wants at this point, which I mean, it's a nice, it's a luxury to have at the end of a draft to just be able to pick and choose who you want to take. And he is by far and away the leading, I guess, guy if we're looking at money remaining. Matt Carmody has one player left, $27. So yeah, potentially not managed too well. Could have gone a bit harder over some guys earlier in the draft, maybe. But he did get some good value. We talked about his team: Jimmy Butler for 10, Trey Murphy for 9, Vooch for 11, Kobe White for 5. So yeah, potentially could have gone in harder on one of those top end guys, because at this point in the draft, you really only want to have $5 to $8 left at the most. And once we're into, what are we into? Pick 110 or something. So Keegan Murray went for $6. Kyle Kuzma goes for $8. So we're in that bucket now of guys going for 5 to 10. Okongwu, let's see where he goes, because I have him in that the range of Zubats and those guys. Zubats went for 19. Lively went for a lot less. Obviously, Okongwu sitting at 8, which I think is nice. If you can get him there, he's at 9. This is about, I think, where he should go, $10, $11, which is where he's at now. He goes for 11. So, yeah, good. I think... let me just pop in the chat here. There's some chat now going on about best value. And what I might actually do is talk to Raf and get him on, and we'll do a breakdown. Try and get Raf on the show. All right, we'll see. And do we want to speed it up again? What are we at? About 2 hours. I don't know if it says how long. It doesn't say how long this goes for, but it's been going for about 2 hours. We've got, so Okongwu at 11. Colin Sexton goes for $5. And nice. Yeah, I think if, again, I'll go back to Jalen Green. He's just sticking in my head for some reason for $6. Colin Sexton for 5. I think I'd rather Sexton. I just think there's less competition for him in terms of minutes. And I think he was quietly, really good last year. I thought his ball handling, his playmaking all looked pretty good. So, yeah, I think $5 for Sexton is pretty good. Clint Capella sitting at 3. Raf gets Clint Capella for $3. Jeez. we're just thinking that Clint Capella is not going to be on a team. Very nice, Raf. We'll talk about that one when I get you on the show. Yeah, that's stupidly good value. I mean, even if you think Okongwu is going to start, I don't know what it's going to be, but even in 20 minutes, Clint Capella can be a top 100 player. So very nice for that, for Mr. Johnson there. Austin Reeves, $5. He was sort of hyped last year and then plateaued a bit, didn't do a lot, or didn't stand out, I suppose, and has subsequently just fallen off a little bit. Matt Carmody, you've got him. $17 for Austin Reeves. Obviously an overpay, but he's got money left, so that is totally fine. And that's where I said you probably only needed $8 to get Austin Reeves there. So, yeah, Matt Carmody probably, just could have managed somewhere, could have gone after someone or but obviously better to have a little bit of money left than run out of money and miss out on a number of guys. Jonas Valanciunas, who was my very dark horse to lead the league in rebounding this year. I don't think it happens, but hey, it's fun to have some hot takes. Valanciunas goes for $5. Look, we probably get top 80 Jonas for the first couple of months. So I think for that price, very nice. Ben Simmons for the content, yes. Look, I'm foolishly probably high on Ben Simmons. Well, high enough to be able to draft Ben Simmons, and he goes for $1. For $1, that's a steal, I think, because you're really losing nothing on a guy that could be top 80, top 70. It feels unlikely. So we've got 3 teams done. Layups and dunks, Matt Carmody and B-Bin are done. I'll just quickly read through those teams. So Matt Carmody's team, he had Luka, Maxey, Jimmy Butler, Trey Murphy, Vooch, Kobe White, Jarrett Allen, Nurkic, Kuminga, D'Angelo Russell, Lively, and Reeves. Layups and dunks had Kawhi. I talked about he actually had some good value there through the draft. He had Kawhi, Van Fleet, DeRozan, Porzingis, Jokic, Ja Morant, Derek White, Levine, Cam Thomas, Brook Lopez, Keegan Murray, and Jonas Valanciunas, his team. So we had Ben Simmons for $1, Zach Edey for $5. Zach Edey's a bit of an unknown. We think he starts at center, but probably only plays 20 minutes, but could get 2 blocks a game. There's a lot of upside there. Obviously not super mobile offensively and doesn't have a lot of range or anything like that, but should still have a fairly consistent role, which a lot of the rookies don't this year. So at this point in the draft, when there's a bit of money flying around because people have money left, I think getting Edey for $5 it's worth a shot if you think he's going to be. Yes, so Phil G. So a lot of these guys, obviously a lot of people that are part of our Discord community play dynasty leagues and deep leagues and all sorts of things. So being strictly a 30-team guy, there is still a stack of value. There is, and I said that, I've said that on shows and on Twitter. I think actually late this year in drafts, even in standard league drafts, there's a lot of value late in drafts, especially if you're targeting 1 or 2 categories. You can really boost some of those. So Keontae George goes for $2. That's amazing value. Did we just get a... We did. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this on the show. Thank you for popping that in the chat. So Karl Anthony Towns is potentially going to the Knicks. The Knicks are nearing a trade to send a package around Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo to Minnesota for Karl Anthony Towns. Wow, okay. Quick fantasy breakdown of this. Cat going to the Knicks is... Well, I mean, he'll start at center, obviously, and probably won't get back to where he was when he was a first rounder because there's just a lot of talent on that Knicks team where he didn't have a lot to contend with. Sorry, I've moved off the draft a little bit here. But certainly bumps him up, I would say. Rebound numbers will go up. So good for Cat. Gets him out of. I mean, it's interesting. I didn't think he'd leave Minnesota. And the other side of that trade, Randall and DiVincenzo going to the Timberwolves. Well, DiVincenzo will probably come off the bench unless they're going to do some shuffling. Randall probably just slots into Cat's spot, to be honest. So I don't think it really impacts Randall too much. DiVincenzo, probably not much either. I think the winner of this trade would be Cat. I'd need to have a look at minutes and all sorts of things. But, very interesting. Okay. I guess I might have to get a Knicks Towns jersey then. All right, back to the draft. So we had Keontae George for $1. We had Malik Monk for $2. We had Alex Sarr for $4. Marcus Smart for $1. Wow. Okay, Marcus Smart for $1 is amazing value. Asar Thompson for $10. What did Amen go for? What did Amen Thompson go for? He went for 10 as well. So interesting because Amen is usually going a bit higher than Asar in drafts. Bobby Portis goes for $1. We're into a lot of these dollar picks now. We really are coming to the back end of the draft. 5 teams are done. Chris Paul nominated. He won't go for $1. No, he's been nominated. He's up to $2. Could be some really good value. Phil G can land him. No, he doesn't. $9. Okay, so Jay Lee must just have $9 left. Okay. Look, I think Chris Paul's in for a pretty good year in terms of what he does when he's on the court. How many games does he play? 55, 60, I'd say. But look, maybe they push into the play-in. I know they are one of the dark horses to make at least a push to try and get into the postseason. So if that's the case, Chris Paul, he'll get assists, he'll get steals, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So still very good at what he does well. Dyson Daniels. Yes, $2. Yeah, Dyson, another guy I think you can get late in drafts who could be one of those. As I said, you can build some of those category steals late, and I think Dyson is a really nice last round guy. CJ, another somewhat forgotten guy. I mean, with reason, he wasn't super great last year, but should still have a fairly consistent role. But he goes for $1. Wow. I'm not high on CJ, but getting a top 70 guy for $1 is so we are seeing a lot of value. Let's have a look. Have we got any more? Nothing from Shams. And no Woj bombs. How sad. It's a Shams bomb and not a Woj bomb. Okay, so Isaiah Jackson goes for $1. And yes, Nitzer acknowledges that there was potentially some poor money management there. Ending the draft with $36 is not something I would recommend. I'm just reading through one of my group chats here about the Knicks. Yeah, nothing extra. Cat on the Knicks is going to be fun. I'm going to have to support the Knicks now, which is something I probably didn't think I'd do. And Raf, who's in the draft, I'm sure is keeping an eye. Is Raf? He's still drafting. Let's see if he responds. Let's see if he responds at all. He's probably not looking at the draft at all anymore. He's probably just watching what the Knicks are doing. Still nothing else. So, okay, so Isaiah Jackson, $1. D'Anthony Melton, $1. Very good value. Michael Porter, $3. Very good value. Yeah, Raf needs time to process it. People. Let me just. So a lot of value actually coming late in this draft, which I don't think we saw as much of in that first one. But Michael Porter for $3 is fantastic. Jaden Ivey for $1. Yeah, look, I mean, that's fine. Bogdan Bogdanovic now being nominated. So, yeah, look, I mean, Melton for $1, McCollum for $1. There was someone else up here. Marcus Smart for $1. Malik Monk for $2. Keontae George for $2. So, yeah, it's there has been some good value picks here. Terry Rozier for Heat Lifer for $3. And I mean, Rozier, we don't know what version of Rozier we're going to get this year. He could be top 50. He could be top 100. For $3, absolutely worth splashing $3 on Terry Rozier. Okay, we are coming towards the end. We've got a couple of guys. Phil G still has 5 spots. Raf has 2. Alex Fantrax has 3, and Heat Lifer has 1. Alex Fantrax has 3 spots and $3, so he can only go $1. Raf has 2 players, $3. So we're going to see a few $1 bids here. Contavious Caldwell-Pope goes for $1. John Collins still sitting there. He's certainly worth more than $1. Mike Conley worth more than $1. Who else? I'd have Taylor Hendricks as more than $1, but if you wanted him, you'd probably get him for $1 in this draft. Jeremy Sohan still there. Noah Clowney still sitting there. Yeah, so there's still some value floating around, but yeah, certainly no one elite. Let's say that. Matas Buzelis goes for $1. Reed Shepherd probably going to go for $1. Yep. $2. Sorry, he must have been nominated for $2. Okay, so Reed Shepherd goes for $2. Taylor Hendricks now nominated. And he, as I said, I think he'll go for $1 if that's what he was nominated for. And he does go for $1. Nice. People know I'm pretty high on him. Denny Avdia. Yeah, he gets that sort of, what are we calling it? The Portland discount, I suppose, because I think if he starts and plays 30 minutes, he's top 100 easy. But where does he fit? Who is in Portland's starting lineup? What's their rotation? It's so many questions. Again, preseason, if they roll out starters and that sort of thing. John Collins. So yeah, I mean, if John Collins goes for $1, and he does, that's nice. I mean, I'm not, yeah. So Kat has just tweeted 3 dots, which could mean that what the hell's going on? Why did this happen? Or what's still to come? Be interesting if he was part of these trade discussions or whether, and who initiated them. I would. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the Knicks certainly need to get a center, and so that makes sense from their perspective. But maybe it's a financial thing. There's obviously Minnesota, they're paying a lot of the guys, like, so maybe it's a luxury tax kind of thing, or maybe it's a Gobert thing. Maybe it's just that, like, Minnesota were just feeling that Cat was being underutilized with Gobert. Gobert obviously gives them that defensive identity that they built last year, so maybe that's the reason. And they wanted to bring in Randall, who is honestly, I mean, I think Randall is a pretty good fit because he can spread the floor. Like, he does a lot of what Cat does, but he's not a center, whereas Cat is. And I mean, DiVincenzo showed last year that he's a fantastic role player. So he could certainly step into a larger role if he needs to, or come off the bench. He gives them a lot of flexibility with their second unit. So, I mean, I like it for both teams, I think. Losing DiVincenzo probably doesn't matter as much now that they've got Mikal Bridges, but he was pretty important to them last year. I do wonder if they tried to get Josh Hart in there into that deal instead. But, we'll see. We'll see. We've had a lot of picks. John Collins for $1, Donovan Clingan for $1, Jeremy Grant for $1, Klay Thompson for $1, Noah Clowney for $1, Khalil Ware for $1. We can't have many. Oh, is that it? I think we're done. We're done. That sort of snuck up on me there because I was, talking about the draft, the trade, which I was not expecting to come. Let's have a look. Yes, so we just have now official-ish. The Knicks have acquired Cat for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick via Detroit. So, yeah, can't say I started today or started this show with a Cat trade on my bingo card, but there you go. Welcome to the NBA. So I'm going to wrap things up. So, yeah, that is I will do a breakdown with Raf in the next few days. Hopefully I'll have a chat. Let me stop sharing that and bring me up. So, yeah, I'll do a breakdown with Raf, and we'll talk about his team and some value and players and probably the trade. Being a Knicks fan, he will probably want to talk about that. So I will message him, get him onto the show. One final little plug for us. If you could, if you're watching on YouTube, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching on Twitter, head over to YouTube very quickly and like and subscribe. As I said, we will be still doing some random live shows on Twitter, but really trying to build that audience over on the streaming platforms and those sorts of things as we look to expand a bit. And yes, there is some news coming in the next couple of days regarding some leagues and things that are happening. As I find the right button and go and have something to eat. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for the Discord guys for jumping in and being part of the draft. I thought no real hiccups, that's great when you're doing a live draft. I'll let you get back to what you are doing, as will I. Until next time, catch ya.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.